you also have to communicate your results, right? And this is just as important as actually getting the right answer. Every test is going to have its very own specific shorthand that you can use to summarize the key information that was associated with that test. You're always going to want to report the calculated obtained test statistic, right, what you calculated. You're always going to report how many degrees of freedom you had for that test, and this is what is used to identify your critical value. Okay, so you're reporting that. It gives us an idea of the power of your test, and you're also going to report the resulting p-value. So all of these can be written in some very nice, succinct shorthand that I'll teach you for each test so that you don't have to write out multiple sentences that say, my obtained test statistic was blah, 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 blah. That's just way too many words. Scientific writing is all about being concise and to the point. But this needs to be embedded within a really well-written paragraph that summarizes your results. And that paragraph should always include a statement of your hypothesis, and the research hypothesis is fine. I mean, you could use the null, but it just sounds so awkward and boring. It's always more helpful to know what you actually thought was going to be the outcome. So a statement of the research hypothesis is nice. Then you have to include that shorthand. You can say, we found a significant result, and shorthand. You have to describe the nature of the differences or relationships found. Right? It's not just enough to say there is a difference. You have to tell us which group was higher. And then your interpretation of those results. Now, for different tests, that might require additional information, but always you want to think about, is this really a meaningful difference? And this gets at power. You could have a test that has tremendous power and returns a significant result, but if it really isn't meaningful ecologically, you should be stating that up front, and that the result is likely because of the power of your test. You often want to explain maybe why you found the differences or relationships that you saw. So you're explaining these results so that they make sense based on previous research or ecological theory. And you can also report how much of the total variability was accounted for based on this relationship or this difference. And all of this should be very succinct and written in one nice, neat paragraph. It's not about writing more, right? It's about writing clearly. And so I just wanted to give you an example of what that might look like. The one sample z-test does have some shorthand that you can use. Within these parentheses, you would say Z. What this does is it tells us what test you ran, and you would actually list whatever the obtained value was that you calculated, comma, and then you would also enter the p-value associated with that obtained value. And how would you summarize all of that very succinctly in one paragraph? Well, I've given an example here. Remember, the key components of a summary paragraph would be to state what the hypothesis is, and I've done that here. We tested to see if there was a significant difference in body mass between our Vermont sample of long-eared bats and the larger population across its geographic range. So what's nice is that I'm also letting you know in this sentence what the test is, that we have a sample of long-eared bats from Vermont, and that we're comparing that sample to the larger population. Right? So that tells us we're looking for the z-test. The second piece is to report your actual results with the shorthand from the z-test. So I say, we found that Vermont bats were significantly larger than the population. I enter my z that tells them the test, my obtained value, and the p-value associated with that. Then comes the interpretation part. This is likely due to the cooler temperatures at the northern edge of long-eared bats' range and the thermal advantage of larger body size.